Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room, everybody. What's going on? I'm Mistress Carrie. Thank you very much for joining me each and every Tuesday night at 8:30. Welcome to the War Room, and as you might be able to tell by the squeaking, the monster, that's her butthole, sorry about that. The monster has joined us. I will turn on the Pug Cam for you. Come here, Wednesday. Come say hi to everybody before we get the show started, because you're being a terror right now. I want to show you guys her new toy that she is just obsessed with, and we'll go over mail call later with everything that came in the mail, but she got this raccoon in the mail, and she won't stop throwing it around. Right? Do you want to play tug of war tonight? If it's a little noisy in the war room tonight, I opened the window, so if you're hearing the crickets and stuff outside, it's because it was hot as hell in here, and so I had to open the window, so I apologize for the background cricket noises, but a lot to talk about tonight. I'm telling you guys, this show is going to be jam-packed with stuff, and I am swearing all of the people with the Mistress Carrie backstage passes on Patreon to secrecy until it's time to give up the big announcements, because I don't want you guys blowing it in the comments tonight. So thank you guys for joining me every Tuesday. Wednesday, of course, is here. And like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to talk about last week's podcast episode that we did on Zildjian Symbols with Sarah Hagen. But speaking of the podcast, I don't want to leave him waiting too much longer. He's been sitting there listening to Wednesday's squeaking. So I told you guys that we were going to have a special guest in the war room tonight. And so I want to welcome Mike Mushok from Saint Asonia and Staind. What's going on, Mike?
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good. Can everybody hear Mike okay? Is everybody good? There's no technical difficulties? I was on the... Huh?
You got this figured out?
I don't know, Mike. I was at AAF for 22 years and I had an engineer. So anytime something was broken, I just called somebody, and now I'm doing it all myself. So sometimes things don't work.
That's impressive.
So I can hear you fine. I hope that, fuck yeah. Everybody says awesome. Hello. What's up, Mike, says Bish. Hey, Mike, says Jeff. Everybody says we're good. War Room, up, still waiting. So far, so good, says Renee. Good here, says Monica. Marcel says it sounds good. Loud and clear, says David. So I think we're good to go. How are you holding up?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm good. It's a little warm in here. And of course, I got the Pug Cam over here. I can't have you and Wednesday on the Pug Cam at the same time. So
I would have my dog. My dog wouldn't fit in the camera picture.
Why? What kind of a dog is it?
Newfoundland.
Oh, Jesus.
Not old, he's about 100 pounds.
100 pounds?
At 9 months.
Oh, my God. And they shed like crazy, right?
Eventually. We had one. We had, unfortunately, right after this. We got him March 1st. April 23rd, Lulu, we had to say goodbye.
I'm so sorry.
She got sick about 3 weeks after we got the new guy. And, oh my God.
Is there anything worse than losing a pet? Seriously.
I said to my wife, I don't remember the last time I cried like that. I mean, it was literally like...
It's awful.
And she was the best dog ever. That's why we got the same breed, because she was the best. I mean,
right.
She exactly what you wanted. She did it. She was just, there was no better. She was really great. And Ollie, our new guy, is not Lulu.
It's the nicest shit talking ever. The dog is great, but not Lulu.
Yeah, no.
Not Lulu.
But that's okay. He's got a big personality.
It's nice that you got a nice portable small dog that you could take on tour too.
Oh yeah, no, not so much.
Yeah, Wednesday's like the star of her own. She has her own Instagram. You can follow her on Instagram at Wednesday the Goth Pug, just in case. And she gets mail.
If I had ever been on Instagram or had it, I would do that.
Well, you know what's funny? When we did the podcast episode, which, by the way, thank you very much. You and Adam did the podcast for me a couple weeks ago. And I always try to tag the people that are on the podcast and stuff when I put up Instagram posts and tweets and stuff. And I was like, come on, Mike, like get with it. Because half of the pages you didn't even have.
None of them. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. So 2013, Staind kind of stopped playing around. We put out our last record 2011.
Yeah, when you didn't break up.
Right, we didn't break up.
Right.
We put it out, and Aaron, it had already started as kind of his country career, and he was, but had a record came out about the same time as ours, and he continued with that. So now I'm scrambling, I mean, it's like I knew it was coming, but it's like, okay, I had all these years we would, you record a record, you go out, you tour for a year and a half, you come home, take a little time off, you record a record, you go tour.
Yeah, you're in a cycle.
You're in that, yeah, and then it stops and you're like, okay, all this income that I had from doing these things I got to figure something out. So anyways, one of the calls that I had gotten was to Jason Newsted, formerly Metallic, was looking for a guitar player. And this was in 2013. So I had to go out to Los Angeles for some meetings or whatever, and he lives in Northern California. So he had sent me some songs. I learned a bunch of songs. We went and played. I was staying at a hotel down the street. He had someone else audition. He called me back, and we were actually just hanging out, having a drink or whatever in his kitchen. And he goes, I knew I'd heard of you. I'd heard of Staind. He goes, but I really didn't know that much about you. So he goes, I went online. I tried to find your Facebook page, and he goes, you don't have any of that. I'm like, no. He's like, that's how I knew I'd like you.
Hey, we learned a couple weeks ago on the podcast from Chris Trainer from Bush that Jason Newsted's a fantastic babysitter. Did he babysit your kids too?
No, not, no.
Well, one of the things that we did not talk about in the podcast episode very much, because Adam was in the podcast as well, and we were talking a lot about how you guys were adjusting and how it can be difficult being a band because he's in Canada and can't come here, and you're here and can't go there.
Right.
But one of the things we didn't really focus on, and it's the one thing that everybody is asking about in the comments, is Staind. So you brought it up. You guys were supposed to go out on tour this summer. And there are a lot of rumors that Aaron leaked with Sully and all this stuff about working on new music. So can you just fill us in on everything we're allowed to know, and then maybe slide us a little bit of information we shouldn't know?
Yes, it was very disappointing, after all these years that, we finally had these shows lined up. We played last fall. We did a handful of shows, and they were great. It was, it was a lot of fun to be back on stage playing those songs again. And we had this tour lined up and these festivals in May, and then this pandemic hit and everything kind of went away. So now, everything's kind of being moved to next year. And listen, hopefully we can get to the point where we're all good and can actually do them. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, there's some music kicking around, you know what I mean? We'll see what happens. I know Aaron's working on some of his stuff, and, I have a bunch of stuff that I recorded, and I mean, no time like the present when we're not really doing anything, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that, you had such a huge opportunity this year to be not broken up anymore and go back out on the road again. And now the entire industry and business is kind of frozen in time right now. And so many people are bumping things to next year, and they're working on music. I mean, we've talked a lot about it in the podcast with different artists about, do you release new music right now, or do you hold it because you can't tour? And
I don't know how you can. I know Seether's putting their record out. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. But I mean, it seems like the only way you promote things is by getting out there. And I mean, especially what you used to do with radio stations to get things played. I mean, you have that where you go into town, you go to the station, you know what I mean? You do things, and it helps things along, right? So
Jeff just said 2020 can eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah, no.
There's some jokes we have in the war room, Mike, just to clue you in, and one of them is bags of dicks. Someone sent me, her name's Monica, she sent me some gummy dicks, and it's called dicksbymail.com. I'm working on getting them to sponsor the podcast. And so we talk about bags of dicks a lot around here. I apologize.
That's okay. I've heard it before. It made me lose my train of thought completely.
So you're talking about working on music this year, and because like working with radio stations, that you would do promotions with stations to promote a record and a tour.
I would think if I had a record, I wouldn't want to put it out right now, because you kind of have to get out there on the road and support it, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to these days, is you have to go out there and work and play, and that's really, like, a record now is kind of that calling card to give you the, the pass to go back out on the road and play some new music and go and tour again, right? I mean,
Joshua says that the Disturbed Staind Bad Wolves tour in Mass next year is on his birthday, the rescheduled date. So,
all right, Joshua, we'll see you there then.
We got that to look forward to then. I mean, that was definitely one of the, and I know the Disturbed guys because it was a 20th anniversary celebration for them too. So it's like, and Aerosmith is pushing back their 50th anniversary tour to the 51st anniversary. I mean, it really did kind of fuck everything up.
I mean, it's especially in this industry, what we do. I mean, and it just doesn't, I mean, it's going to be hard for that to, to come back too.
Monica says my name is now associated with bags of dicks. And Brian, what's up, Brian? He's watching the Philippines right now, which is very cool. So people join us in the war room from all over. Hey, I want to introduce you. People have spotted it in the comments. We're going full Fernandez tonight. I have a buddy, an army buddy that I was in Afghanistan with named Fernandez, who makes the world's best sangria. And this is a mug that somebody gave me and sent to me. And we have reasons to celebrate that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes.
That a sangria. That's not a glass of sangria.
Mike, it's a glass. Okay. This is the war room's a no judgment zone, Mike. I feel like you're judging me right now. I'm
jealous because I don't have any of that. All I have is I put a beer in a cup. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Well,
yeah.
When the tour happens next year, I promise you that I will get Fernandez to make you sangria because he legit makes the best sangria on the planet. And he dropped it off today because of COVID. He drops pictures of sangria off like in my bushes.
Oh my God.
And he'll text me and be like, target acquired or, some kind of military jargon or whatever. And then I'll go out in the bushes and there's a picture of sangria out there waiting. So
nice. Can't go wrong with that.
It's delicious. So I'll have him make you some.
That would be great.
What else have you been doing to we talked a lot on the podcast, and if you guys have questions for Mike, put them in the comments, especially if it's stuff that we didn't really talk about in the podcast. But what else have you kind of been doing besides kicking around music that may or may not be Staind music or whatever? Because I wanted to show you a couple things.
Go.
I grew purple tomatoes in my garden. These are an actual thing. Did you know that?
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, these are purple cherry tomatoes. And then I like to do things big, Mike.
Uh-oh. What do you got? Let's see this cucumber, zucchini. What is it?
This is a summer squash.
Yeah, okay.
It looks like a fucking pumpkin, but I brought it in the war room because I wanted to show you. You can tell that there's nothing in the world going on when I'm growing shit like this in my garden. Like, what am I supposed to do with this thing?
Do you eat that?
Not in one sitting. You thought my sangria glass was big? What? Those spiralizer things?
Right.
What am I supposed to make pasta out of this fucker? Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
No, I have no idea. I've not eaten that much squash in my entire life.
I can see the music trades now. Mistress Carrie interviews Mike Mushok, talks about squash.
Really? That's how exciting I am.
Squashzilla, says Will. Oh my God. Shit. Wow. Holy Barba Papa of squash. Oh my God. Do you remember the Barba Papas when we were kids?
I don't.
You don't remember? They were little blobs, little cartoon blobs, and they could turn themselves into like any shapes. You don't remember the Barba Papas?
I think I'm older than you.
Not by much. You can't. We don't have a generation gap or anything.
I don't remember that at all.
Really?
Yeah, not at all.
Oh my God. Joshua says everything is a dildo if you're brave enough.
Wow.
See? Welcome to the war room. Exactly. Wow. Yeah. Squash and dick, says Tim. Squash on steroids. What is in your soil? It's got to be the bodies I have back there.
Yeah, right.
We got to get you a cam for the dog. Like, it's going to have to be wide angle, though.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, the thing is that would just mean that I have other things that I have to do that I wouldn't do.
Yeah, it's not your bag.
I have to subscribe to these other things that you speak of that I don't know what they are. I'd have to figure them out. And
you texted me, you're like, I haven't used Skype in forever. I'm like, we've been socially distancing and quarantined for like 6 months. And you're like, I haven't used Skype in a while. I'm like, aren't you talking to anyone online? What are you doing?
well, FaceTime and Zoom is usually seems to be the thing of.
Yeah, that's true.
A new one today I'd never heard of, Teams. One of my partners is like, "Are you on Teams?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I can be."
Annette says, I'm 50 and I remember the Baba Papas.
Okay, so I'm only a year older than you. How do I not remember that?
Well, that's what Annette says. Yeah.
I don't know. What was it on? I have no idea.
It was like a cartoon. It was like a kid's cartoon. Can you guys put some links up in the comments so that
Looney Tunes was my Flintstones, Jetsons. That's I don't know Baba Papas.
I mean, go back and look at all the ones we watched when we were kids. Isn't it amazing that we survived our childhoods with everybody shooting themselves in the face?
It was great, though. Great.
Greetings from Holyoke, says Jim. I've been social distancing for 54 years, says Frank. Been on lockdown for 6 months in the Philippines, says Brian. Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Holyoke was where Staind played its first gig.
Ever? Give me the details on the first gig.
The Waterfront, it was called, in Holyoke. We played our first gig there. I remember we opened with Cracker Man. That's about all I remember.
Was that in Aaron's hot pink eyebrows phase, or was this pre-pink eyebrows? Do you remember?
I think that was way later.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Would have been January of 95.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I remember when I really started hanging around the AF studio, like, 97, before I even started my show in 98, I remember Carmelita talking about you guys, and there were some Staind stickers in the studio. And I remember like this old sales guy or whatever, he's like, do you think they know they spelled the name of the band wrong? Like, yeah, we're pretty sure that they know.
Yeah, I know that. I remember we went up there one night. She did that Sunday night show.
Yeah.
And we went up one night, which was, for us, it was, the greatest thing.
I was telling somebody about that Loco Bazooka year that you guys played, because I was supposed to skydive in and introduce you guys at the Fitchburg airport, and it rained and the clouds were so low that I couldn't do it.
Right.
And yeah, I wanted to do that so bad.
That would have been great.
I don't remember. I'm not that far off. I don't remember them. No wonder, says Sabrina. I saw you guys in Springfield, says Jim. Saw Staind and Three Doors Down a long time ago, says Bish. The Infinity Rock Club was the bomb, says Carrie.
So our first gig was at Waterfront, and then Infinity was where we always played. And then there's kind of like I think we opened for somebody at the Waterfront. Yeah, we did. We opened for some other band. And then we got a night at the Infinity, and I remember they sold out of beer at like 11:30. The place was packed. It was always play there.
We talked a lot about your kids in the podcast because you have twin 13-year-olds. And one of the things that you're like, yeah.
Oh my God, 13 going on 20.
And one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, rock stars always talk about how their kids just don't think they're cool. I mean, even Slash's kids don't think he's cool, and he's fucking Slash, right?
Yeah. He's way cool. I can say that.
It's Slash, and his kids still don't think he's cool. Right. So when you're out with the kids, like, where's the most random, weird place that you heard your music? And did the kids even realize it? Like,
well, what's weird is that, and a lot of people have told me this, there's some like Muzak tape that has, I think it's So Far Away, Muzak version they play at grocery stores.
No.
I've had people from like all over, like, so these grocery stores must have like this service they subscribe to or something.
With like approved music or whatever.
So there's like a Muzak version of So Far Away that plays, and people like randomly just say, I heard you in the grocery store. That's but with the kids, they usually do pick up, you know what I mean? If it's me, I don't know. I would say that, but I've heard that one in the grocery store before. Been like, oh, there it is.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I love all of those stories about like, Dad dropped me off down the street.
Totally.
Even though you're the rock stars that like people are so excited to meet and think are so cool, it's like your kids are just like, no, that's my old dad with the long hair.
Right. For years, like whenever we go anywhere, the first thing my daughter would do is take my hand. And like whenever we went, and this lasted up until about halfway through 5th grade. And it broke my heart, I gotta tell you. I remember I was like a chaperone at like a field day thing, and she was with all her friends, and I was like, Maddie, don't you want to give your dad a hug? And chased her around the field trying to give her a hug. She was mortified. So funny.
Oh my! I heard music versions of metal songs in the dentist waiting room, says Michael. So yeah. Joseph says he heard it at Market Basket. So that's how you know your career's gone to another level, Mike, because you're on the Market Basket playlist now.
Yeah, there you go. See, I told you.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow this is, I don't know who got this out there or who put it there. I hope I'm getting my pennies for it, though. That's all I know.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that because, you guys write that music, that even though it's not your version, that you would still get licensing money for it, which is hilarious.
Right.
Producer Mike, so we call him Producer Mike because he was the guy that went to Afghanistan with me in 2011. He wanted to know, what is your favorite mass venue to play? Because he remembers seeing you at City Hall Plaza.
That was great. I remember that too. I remember they made us go on early for that. The cops came back and like, oh, you guys got to go on right now. So, that was a lot of fun. I think that was like a free show for like a record release thing. Favorite mass venue. Oh, geez. We used to play the Hippodrome in Springfield.
Oh, yeah.
Always a fun place to play. The Pavilion out by Boston's fun to do. I like that one. I don't know. Wherever people show up, I'm pretty happy with. Usually in the War Room. Well, the War Room started as a nightly thing during the pandemic and stuff, right? We did 81 nights in a row, and now we just get together weekly. Right.
One of the things that we did a lot was, I think I went all 81 nights without wearing the same concert shirt twice. I dug into the archives. So before I make my big announcement, which I want you to be part of.
Okay.
You have got to have some really awesome old concert shirts. And I don't mean Staind shirts. I mean bands that you love and shirts that you have and saved. There's got to be some ones, old school ones now.
I don't think I have any.
What?
I don't think I have any.
How can you not have this stuff?
I don't know, because I'm not a hoarder. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It's
the size of my sangria. I'm an alcoholic. I grow giant squash. Now I'm a hoarder.
But other than that, I mean, things are really great.
Things are great. Other than all of those flaws and imperfections, Carrie, you're doing awesome.
Nothing like having me on just to make yourself feel great about yourself. Right?
I know. Well, I want to give you a chance to talk about what you have going on at Six String down at Patriot Place, because in the podcast, we talked about how you guys were back open. So with everything that's going on right now with Corona and stuff, where is the club at right now? What are you guys doing?
Well, we actually started, being able to have some acoustic music out on the patio.
Oh, cool.
Which is good on Fridays and Saturdays. We've been doing that. Indoors is open, everybody's socially distanced. We're having, playoff Bruins and Celtics playoff games. I'm not sure anybody wants to watch the Red Sox play these days. Brutal. And we just unfortunately found out today that there'll be no fans at Patriots games.
Yeah, which is just...
I mean, listen, is anybody surprised by that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
We had a conversation the other day. I'm like, there's no way that Baker is letting people. But you know what kills me? They're going to take all your kids and all your teachers, and they're going to go throw them into school. But you can't have, 50% capacity in a restaurant. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, from what I'm hearing from my friends down south, whose kids are already starting to go back to school, they're having kids on day one, which was yesterday, test positive and school staff test positive. And so a lot of the people that I know, even though the schools are open partially, are just choosing to homeschool their kids this year because they don't want to deal with it.
Listen, they're going to end up back home eventually, right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying, that they'll lock everything down again. And if you go back to work and you don't have, support set up to have your kids back at home again, then that's what's going to happen all over again.
Oh, so anyways, listen, it's nice to have some live music down there again. It's nice to have, Inside Open. And, I look forward to the day that we're able to have, concerts again there, though, and people can come in and really enjoy themselves. And there's football games and, that's really what,
Well, you guys built a beautiful club. We're talking about the Six String Bar and Grill, which is at Patriot Place. And you really did kind of turn what was the old Toby Keith's into way more of a live music venue.
Yeah.
The food's great. The stage sight lines are awesome. I mean, you did that Friends of Six String thing over the winter, and everybody can see. It's just a great place to see a show.
Well,
so
cool. Also raised, I think it was $42,000 for the Boston Children's Hospital that night.
Yeah, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, we had a great night. It was a lot of fun. And listen, we were going to try and do that and, do things like that. And we're still going to. All that stuff's in the plans. We just have to kind of get through this, right? And we're going to get through this, the other side of it. And, the crafts have been great as far as, what they've been doing for, helping us and making sure that, we continue to be able to, move forward. And, we'll follow all the guidelines that we have to follow. And like I said, hopefully the day comes sooner than later that we can all be down there and having shows like that again. And, having you there and helping out. Cause it was a really fun night. And,
yeah, it was great.
Look forward to a lot more of those hopefully coming up soon in the future. So,
well, 2020 has not brought a lot of great news for a lot of people, and it's been incredibly difficult. I mean, we've joked about it so many times, I can't even count that, I was having a hard time in 2020 before the coronavirus hit just because of what happened to the radio station, and that this year has been a really, really hard year. And so, wait, go ahead.
You need some good news.
I have good news, and I do. And I wanted to keep you on tonight so that the people that have the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass on Patreon already know, and I swore them to secrecy. But I have some big news, and I wanted you, because you and I have known each other for going on almost 25 years now?
Long time, yeah.
So I wanted to be able to tell you. So over the weekend, I went on motorcycle ride down in North Carolina, the 6th annual, I don't know if you can see my shirt, the 6th annual Rob's Ride. He was a Marine sniper, a legendary Marine sniper that passed away in 2014. And so I went down and they have a motorcycle ride in his honor that benefits the Sniper Foundations. And so I went down and did that. And then on Sunday, my boyfriend asked me to marry him.
My God. Wow. Congratulations.
So 2020 has at least given me one little amazing story in that I'm getting married. I'm engaged.
Wow, congratulations. Did you see it coming?
Yes and no. I mean, you get older, and I mean, you have adult conversations about adult things. You know what I mean?
No.
How long have you been married, Mike? Come on. Don't answer the wrong thing.
No, it'll be 18 years this year in October.
Yeah, see, exactly. So don't say that you don't know what it's like to have the adult conversations and the adult, whatever,
I do, yeah.
So on the screen, you can't see it, but on the screen is a close-up of my engagement ring, which, Mike, I thought you would get a kick out of because it's a black diamond and it has skulls on it.
Wow, look at that. Very nice. Where do you even get that?
Believe it or not, there are places. The Google machine works well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. I was super excited and I couldn't wait to tell everybody, and everybody in the war room, the comments are going crazy. Thank you guys so much for all of the love and all of the support. It's been insane. And Mike, you're one of my oldest friends in music. And so finding out I was going to have you on tonight so that I could tell you with everybody else, I was pretty excited.
Very much. I got to ask you though, because I mean, last time we spoke, you were about to go on this road trip with the kids and the whole deal.
Yeah.
And meet the parents too, right? I mean, wasn't it?
Obviously the road trip went great because I passed inspection with the fam and I should have known that was a precursor to
Sure.
Yeah. I found out that the ring has been purchased for a while and that the ring was on that road trip and never made an appearance.
Was that the plan? He just didn't find the right time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Betty says, glad I was able to make it tonight. Shit, Carrie, my ex got engaged the same month, says Diva. Congratulations, says Rachel. I don't know. Everybody's just, messages are going so fast. It's just so sweet. Thank you guys so much for all the love. And it's definitely like made 2020 suck a little bit less, which has been great.
So now you have to do all the planning. You're going to have a bigger thing, or what's it going to be?
I mean, you can't right now. You know what I mean? Like you can't have a giant wedding and you can't do.
And for maybe next year, you still don't know what to plan for, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of factors and I'll have more on that later. There's obviously like the first thing is like, what the hell do I wear? Priority number one, Mike, come on.
Right.
What am I going to wear? I got to figure that out.
You do have to figure it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the second hardest decision besides who you're going to marry is what you're going to wear.
Gotcha.
And it's like right there. You know what I mean? Like decision number one, and then just under it is decision number two.
I never realized that was that important, which I guess you're right.
Well, the dude just has to stand there, man. You got to get the ring right. That's the only thing you have to get right, which he obviously did. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Now I got to figure it out. So, and I was like, oh, thank God I got a manicure recently so that when I show people my hands that my nails look good. Like this is chick stuff, Mike.
Yeah, no, well, listen, that one I can understand. If you were like, 8 weeks into quarantine, you show these jagged rings.
Yeah.
Got it.
Be like, I got engaged. Here's my ring. Don't look at my nails.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I told you in the podcast, but I want to tell you again in the War Room, it means the world that all of the bands and the musicians that I had such a great relationship with over the years at the radio station have continued to be so supportive with all of my new endeavors and crazy ideas. Like I'm like, hey, come on Skype and come on my War Room show and drink and get drunk on the internet with me. And you're like, okay.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, listen, thank you as always. I mean, and that's part of it. There's, like you said, there's been a lot of years and a lot of support and, a lot of different times together, and you've helped us in many different ways. So obviously, and just enjoy having the conversation with you as always. So it's always a good time.
I just realized that all the graphics that I built for my big announcement, if you just logged into the War Room, may look like you and I are getting married. I'm apologizing now, Mike, for all the internet rumors that you won't see because you're not really on social media anyway.
I'm not.
But just in case you start hearing weird rumors, like people that just take a screen grab of what's going on right now are going to be like, did Mistress Carrie and Mike Mushok get engaged? Did I miss something?
Of the authorities knocking on my door for my second wife.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. I'll let you get back to the dog and the math homework and the, songwriting and all of the other stuff that you do.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
We have a couple weeks before the math homework starts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got to repeat it. On September 2nd, they go back.
Oh, all right. So you got a little bit more time before you dive headfirst into hell all over again.
The thing I got to tell you, they were good. I mean, honestly, the reason we're kind of keeping home, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them was that they did all right with it. You know what I mean? They, they did okay. So I think that.
I think it's more for the parents just wanting to get the kids out of the house. They're like, just take them back to school already.
No, and listen, I mean, we're in a situation where if I'm not on the road, I'm here. You know what I mean? So much easier. I mean, I can't complain. You know what I mean? My wife's here. And so we're very fortunate for that. So I feel though, for all the people that have to juggle having a job and kids that,
Yeah.
now are not cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly can't imagine how they do it.
They're amazing. That's why there's a Mother's Day and a Father's Day.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Well, thank you once again for all of the support. For anybody that missed the whole interview, the video episodes get put up in full back on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, we'll put your interview up as an after action report on the podcast too, so that people can hear your reaction to my giant squash if they missed it earlier.
I mean, what a great podcast. We had that enormous squash and an engagement.
An engagement announcement, a giant squash, Fernandez's sangria, and bag of dicks. I mean, seriously, we crammed it all in there.
I mean, just drop the mic.
Yeah, just check. Okay, there you go.
Doesn't get any better.
All right, Mike, I'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out with us in the war room.
Thanks, Carrie. It's great talking to you.
All right, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Yeah.
There he is, Mike Mushok from Staind and Saint Asonia. Thank you guys for all. Wednesday, you going to come back up? Thank you guys for all the love on the big announcement, by the way. It's been hell keeping this secret from you for the last couple days. Like I said, the people with the Mistress Carrie backstage pass knew already. And everybody that is on the comments wondering if I'm moving. Guys, hold on. I had to turn the Pug Cam back on because Wednesday's back. Right, Wednesday? You don't want to move out of Massachusetts, do you? No, we're not going anywhere, right? Are we going to stay right here? Did you not want to hang out with Mike while we were talking to him? She's smelling my giant squash right now. No, we're not going anywhere. I got a war room. We got a thing. No, I am not leaving Massachusetts. Everybody can chill. I'm not going anywhere. So fear not. It's all good. There may be some new war room decorations on the wall sooner than later, maybe, perhaps, but a blueberry cobbler wedding cake, says Marcy. Oh my God. And by the way, I'm not wearing a purple wedding dress. I will look like Violet Beauregard from Willy Wonka if I even tried to do that. Right, Wednesday? She's literally smelling the giant squash right now. Hold on. I want you guys to see the size difference between Wednesday and look at how big the friggin' squash is. Wednesday, can you eat that whole? I really think that the squash weighs almost as much as Wednesday. Are you licking this? Don't lick the squash, you weirdo. All right. So let's talk about, you want to come sit on my lap? So let's talk about, Kim just says, hi, Carrie. What did I miss? Kim, you missed a lot. You may want to scroll back in the comments. So let's talk about the podcast and talk about what you guys thought about Sarah from Zildjian last week. Because Wednesday's got the stingray, fucking stingray. What did you guys think about the podcast last week? And did you learn anything? If you're not a drummer, did you learn things that you didn't know? If you were a drummer, what did you think? I thought it was really interesting. There were a lot of people tweeting to me that they didn't even realize Zildjian cymbals were being made in Massachusetts. Right? Stingray? Let's see. What kind of squash is that? Wendy, that's a summer squash. Believe it or not. Godsmack for the wedding band, says Mark. I say black dress, says Paula. Let's see. Wednesday, furry potato baby. Can he wear purple lapel? Beautiful squash. I just hope my watermelon gets big. Let's see. Very interesting podcast last week, says George. Love the interview. It was very interesting. Everlasting gobstopper, Violet. I love the whole thing. Very educational in the music sense. And that was one of the things that I wanted the podcast to be, was to teach you guys some things about the inner workings of the music business that you might not know. The other thing I wanted to show you guys is in the podcast, I talked about how I went to the Zildjian factory and made a cymbal from start to finish. And I wanted to show you, this is the trash former that I built. So it's a trash cymbal. So that's why it's warped, and it's supposed to be really dirty and kind of trashy sounding. And I was super excited because when it went through the whole process, it turned purple kind of. And so they let me take it home, which I loved. And so this is one of the things that is in MCHQ when I record the podcast episodes and stuff. And I'm sure there's some people going, look at all those fingerprints. the good drummers out there are like, clean your cymbals, damn it, they look like crap. But we talked about it so much in the podcast episode that it was really cool to be able to leave there with something that Oh, you want the stingray? Okay. That I made with my hands. And so I want to show it to you guys. So there you go. Scared the crap out of Wednesday just then. Oh, she does not like that. So there you go. It's very cool. All right, let's talk about this week's podcast because I think you guys, especially after all the discussions that we've had here in the War Room since March, I think you guys are, or at least I'm hoping that you guys are going to think that this week's podcast is really interesting. So let's see. This week's podcast, you guys are going to meet my Uncle Froggy. Now, I don't know if you guys remember way back, I believe it was in March or early April that we started talking about veterans that are in our families. And we started talking about the people in my life that inspired me to do all of the work that I do with the military and with veterans. And one of the people, hold on, I gotta get her monkey now. She keeps throwing all her toys off the couch. One of the people that inspired me to do a lot of the work that I do, and one of the earliest recollections that I have about what post-traumatic stress looks like, is my Uncle Froggy. Now, this is an old picture of him from the 80s, like you can't tell by his outfit. I have been searching high and low, and so has he, for a picture of him in his uniform. But my Uncle Froggy is not a blood uncle. He's one of those family friend uncles that has literally been in my life since I was born. And Uncle Froggy served in the Central Highlands of Vietnam in 1968. He enlisted in the Army. He chose to go infantry. He went airborne. Then he was in Vietnam 30 days after he graduated from airborne school. And he was assigned to be what is called a LRP, which is a long-range reconnaissance patrol. And he was on a 6-man team deep in enemy territory in Vietnam in the worst time of the war. And anybody that knows anything about Vietnam and the timeline and the story behind the LRPs knows that my uncle was in the shit. What are you trying to do, Wednesday? She's like literally sitting underneath me. Are you afraid of the symbol? Or come here. What are you doing? What's the matter? So I'm really, really interested in what you guys think about the podcast. This is one of those things where it's not a big, flashy rock star interview. This is probably the most personal podcast episode I think that I've done so far, and definitely one of the most personal interviews that I've ever done in my career. My uncle and I talked about a lot of things that he's never talked about with me before. And I don't know how many people he's actually ever talked about with some of the stuff. He has not lived anywhere near New England for almost 40 years now. He moved away. He got his teaching degree and moved away and was a school teacher and a basketball coach. He did a lot of work on Native American reservations. He taught on Navajo reservations for a long time. He's a really quiet, understated guy. He's not active online or social media. So just getting him to record the podcast with me he was like, what is a podcast exactly? I was supposed to see him earlier this year. Stiz and I had plans to go back to Vegas to do another broadcast, and I would have gone, but it was the week that AAF went off the air. And I had made plans to meet up with my Uncle Froggy because he lives out that way in Nevada. And I had made plans. Stiz was going to come with me, and we were going to drive down, and I was going to sit down and interview him in person. And then obviously the trip got canceled. David says those LRP guys were the epitome of badass. They were definitely the tip of the spear. It was a program that didn't last very long. I believe that the way that they ran the LRP program stopped in 1971. And, my uncle, he's a Purple Heart recipient. He talks pretty candidly about how he was injured. And that's all in the podcast as well. I have everybody that I know. Wednesday, will you get down? Hunting for pictures of him in his uniform and hunting for pictures. He talks about it really early on in the podcast that he used to babysit me when I was a little kid. And so I've been trying to find a picture, which of course back then, these were film cameras with one copy of a picture. The negatives always got lost. The pictures got thrown in shoe boxes. So my whole family has been searching for a picture of me with Uncle Froggy from when I was a little kid. But I haven't been able to find one yet. So this is really, really a personal and emotional subject and interview for me. And it's something that I really wanted to share on the podcast. Obviously, all of the music related stuff is amazing, but these stories, especially because we're losing so many of these older veterans, the World War II veterans are dying so fast. And I wish that I had sat down with my grandfather who fought in World War II in Korea and done this kind of an interview with him, but he would never have really done it. He didn't want to talk about the 2 years he spent in the South Pacific during World War II. He didn't want to talk about the time that he was away in Korea. And it wasn't until later in life when he was stricken with Alzheimer's that we really started finding out a lot of the things that he had done because he started talking about it. And so I explained that to Uncle Froggy. His name is Gary. It took me years when I was a kid to even find out what his name was. When he says, why is he Uncle Froggy? I don't want to give it away, but what's really funny is that I never knew why we called him Uncle Froggy either. And then he told me the story in the podcast and then it made sense, but we just always called him Uncle Froggy. That's just what we called him. And so he explained that and a lot of other things that I had never really, I always thought that he was drafted, which I found out that he wasn't. I always thought that he had been shot in the neck when he was injured, and that's not exactly the state of the injury that he had, which he goes into detail about in the podcast. I never knew where his name came from. There was so much about him that I just didn't even know. And you can hear, I'll just warn you now, one, you'll hear the surprise in my voice when I'd be like, wait, what? I didn't even know that. And you'll also hear me get really teary and cry a few times in the podcast episode as well. I will warn you guys that next week in the War Room, you'll hear me and Uncle Froggy talk about it in the episode, but I am going to go on a mission to try and reconnect him with some of the LERPs that he served with in Vietnam, and I might need you guys to help me track these guys down. So when you listen to the episode, you will hear him talking about some of the guys. Some guys he has real names for, some guys he has nicknames for. Sometimes he has states of where the guys were from. One guy was from Massachusetts in Somerville. And I would love it after you guys listen to the podcast if you guys could kind of help me track down some of these guys. I don't know, judging by how my uncle is, I don't know if he would ever reconnect, but I want to give him the option. As he gets older, he seemed in the interview to be a little bit interested in at least finding out how the guys that he served with fared, because he hasn't had any contact with 99% of them. One guy he saw shortly after he came home and hasn't seen him since. And so I have offered to take him to Washington, D.C. to the wall. He has not taken me up on that offer yet. I asked him again in the podcast. But I would love it if you guys could kind of get me or get involved with me with a little bit of a manhunt and maybe try to reconnect my uncle with some of the other LERPs that he served with in Vietnam. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this episode of the podcast. I learned a lot, and I know that in the years to come, I'm going to be really happy that I did this episode. My uncle asked me then how he could go and listen to it. he doesn't have internet at home and he has a flip phone. So he said that he would have to go to the library or something to go. And that I have to get him the link somehow. So I might just burn the interview onto a CD and send it to him so that he can hear it at home, because he is just, like I said, not very tech savvy. But I really appreciate you guys and the support that you give me to kind of branch out a little bit with the podcast and get personal and kind of be able to dive in a little bit deeper on some subjects that I wouldn't have been able to do with just the radio show. And so I'm pretty excited for you guys next week to come into the War Room and kind of let me know what you think about it. So that is next week's podcast episode. Don't forget, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, these are all the places that you can subscribe. Apple, Google, Spotify, radio.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, Overcast, Radio Public, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, and Pandora. And we have now reached 80 countries with the podcast. Welcome Georgia does not mean the state, it means the country. And so we have welcomed another country into the Mistress Carrie podcast sphere. So there you go. We hit 80 countries, and it's because you guys are sharing it. And so I'm just so thankful and humbled and just honored that you guys have gotten so involved with the podcast and the War Room, and that you're helping me spread the word. So super excited that we have 80 countries and we're still going. So one of the things that I'll ask you with this episode is, if you know anyone that served in Vietnam, regardless of what branch they served, there's a lot of conversation that I had with my uncle about post-traumatic stress and about the lack of counseling. And he even acknowledges at one point that maybe talking about things might actually help him. So I would love it if you guys would share this interview this week with the Vietnam veterans that you know in your life. And if you could post them up in some of the Facebook groups and on some of the websites and chat rooms and groups online to try and get this out there. One, I think that it just might help another Vietnam veteran to hear another veteran talking about his experience and kind of being candid. But it might also help in our search as well. So there you go. All right, it's time for the mail call. I got a couple things that I cannot wait to show you guys. I went to the post office to get the mail. So the first thing that I got is this package, and there's a couple cards in it that I want to read to you. It says, "You make a positive difference in our community." And it says, "Thank you for all of the good that you do. Just a short message to say thanks for all the years listening to you and your continued success in the future. I enjoy being part of the War Room family, from Rachel." So thank you very much, Rachel. Then there was another card that had a dog on it, which I was like, come on now, I got to open that. It says, "This card is to say thanks. The puppy is just there to get your attention." It says, "Carrie, I moved to Florida in 2007 and continued to listen to you down here. You brought a piece of home each time I tuned in. I hope Wednesday enjoys her toy," which is this raccoon toy that Wednesday has been drooling over and dragging around the house all day. Go get it, Wednesday. I have had this mouse for years. You can add it to the War Room or MCHQ. It's a Desert Storm mouse. And so she sent this, and I thought it was so amazing. And you can tell it's a Desert Storm because they got like the coffee stain camo on. But according to the tag, it says Anna Lee Dolls. And it says made only by Anna Lee in Meredith, New Hampshire, which is really cool. It says Anna Lee Thorndike is the designer of this handcrafted doll. The Thorndike family and their group of local New Hampshire craftsmen hope you enjoy its whimsical charm for many years. This doll's mobility and flexibility allow you to create your own ideas and positioning, resulting in the best of display and decoration. And I just thought it was super cool and really, really cute. So thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate it. It's incredibly sweet, and I am going to keep it here in the War Room because I love it. The other thing I got in the mail this week is this envelope, and I will read the note first. It says, "Hey, Mistress Carrie, sorry I didn't have paper with me." She wrote it on a scrap piece of brown paper. "I thought you would love these. Enjoy. Give a big hug and a kiss to Wednesday from me, from my Coco, from Carol." And it says, "Congrats to you and your Marine. Best news this year." So obviously, Carol is someone with a Mistress Carrie backstage pass and found out about my engagement and was able to get this in the mail before I came into the war room tonight. So thank you very much. For all the people that were wondering if he could wear purple on his lapel, no, because he is going to wear his Marine dress blue uniform, which, ladies, am I right? Yeah. So what Carol sent me are masks, face masks. You guys know how much I love the Muppets. She sent me a Kermit mask, a different Kermit mask. Look at this thing. But my favorite is the Muppet cast. Look at this thing. I'll hold it up so that you guys can see it. Look, they're all on there. It's Animal, Dr. Teeth, Ralph, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Look at them all. This is like the coolest freaking thing ever. I'm so excited. It's like I'm afraid to wear it because I don't want to ruin it because it's too cool. Look at that thing. Everybody asking about the doll. Yes, it's Anna Lee. It was made in New Hampshire. But I'm so excited about the Muppet masks. So thank you guys so much for all of the sweet things that you guys send me in Wednesday. I really appreciate it. I know Wednesday loves all of the toys, and it's so nice to go into the post office, and the people that work there are always like, "Oh, you got mail this week." So the people at the post office also say hello because they've kind of been involved with the war room because of the t-shirts. So they're always sending acknowledgement and love and whatever, which I just think is great. So thank you guys so much for all of the goodies. There's some music headlines we need to talk about. I meant to get rid of this. There we go. Okay, so music headlines. Jack White from the White Stripes and the Raconteurs has his record company called Third Man Records, and he is going in and having a massive garage sale of a lot of music gear. So if you're a gearhead, if you love, musical instruments, especially if they were previously owned by rock stars, you want to go on the Third Man Records garage sale and check out what they have for sale. The announcement was made this week that arrests have been made in the murder of Jam Master Jay. Now, of course, that happened on October 30th of 2002. And the arrests were made. Ronald Washington, who's 56, and Carl Jordan Jr., who is 36, were arrested and are being charged with murder and the murder of Jam Master Jay because of a drug deal gone bad, which makes me really sad. Having talked to Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC extensively about Jam Master Jay in podcast episode number 5, he really went on and on about Jam Master Jay wanting to give back to the community and being a local guy that kept his studio right in the same neighborhood. And so I hope that the new information and the discoveries about the drugs doesn't tarnish the legacy that Jam Master Jay and the positivity that Run DMC left behind as their legacy. Because, hearing Daryl McDaniels talk about Jam Master Jay, if you go back and listen to that episode now, we actually talked about how it was an unsolved case and what it's like to process the grief of losing someone without closure. And so Daryl, was very candid in talking about that. So that was a huge story this week. And also Apple announced Apple Music Radio, which they are transitioning from Beats Music One. And now they are going to have live on-air hosts, including Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, Snoop Dogg, Huey Lewis, Shania Twain, Alanis Morissette. And in the article that I read talking about Apple is that they want the human live connection of radio. And so I just want to officially put it out there to Apple. If you're looking for radio hosts, I'm just letting you know that I may be right here and I have a beautiful studio, MCHQ. And well, we're right here, Apple. If you're looking for a live radio host I'm right here. You can reach me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Cameo, TikTok, kind of, Patreon. Unlike Mike Mushok from Staind in Saint Asonia, you can actually find me online. So I just thought it was really interesting that as more and more people talk about how terrestrial radio and live radio is a dinosaur that's being phased out because of all the new digital technology, that Apple is actually doubling down on radio and kind of taking it back old school, which I think is amazing. And I'm hoping that with the way that radio is downsizing in a lot of other ways, that maybe this creates opportunities for people like me that just love what they do and love the live connection with the audience. And I'm hoping that it opens up opportunities. So way to go, Apple. All right, let's talk about birthdays. We always like to toast you guys. And it's another reason for me to go full Fernandez, which, by the way, Fernandez told me that there's limoncello in this one. So if I start getting weird, you know why? Oh, you know what? I want to talk about that. Mike and Becky commented, said, so happy Mike Shue got a radio gig. I do want to talk about that. Mike Shue announced that he now has a daily radio show on the Pike in Worcester. He's going to be on live from 6 to 8 every night, right after Mikey Adams. Two people that I couldn't love anymore if I tried. I've known Mikey Adams a really long time, and I just love him. But I've known Mike Shue a hell of a lot longer. And to find out that he's getting back on the radio every night, I couldn't be happier for him. So if you guys will put the radio on and listen to the Pike in Worcester, from 6 to 8, you'll be able to hear Mike Shue back on the radio again, which way to go, Shue. Just super excited for him. I just think it's awesome. If today is your birthday, you are celebrating, you were born on the same day with Patrick Swayze. Also celebrating birthdays today, Everlast and Francis Bean Cobain, born on this date. And it was on this date it's not this date. Hold on. It was on this date in 1986 that Bon Jovi released Slippery When Wet, which was a life-changing album release for me. They were the first rock band that I ever saw live in concert, with Tesla opening up for them at what is now the DCU Center in Worcester. I believe that was in December of 1986. And that is one of those albums that changed my life. I mean, that was right in the middle of my high school years, and it was just such a massive album. And I saw Bon Jovi live so many times on the Slippery When Wet tour, I can't even count. Definitely Stalker Level 5 for me. And so I can't believe that it was on this date in 1986 that album came out, which I just thought was crazy. So for everybody that has heard me talk about the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, I want to welcome all of the people that got their Backstage Pass this week. Karen, Michael, Jim, Dave, Penny, Kellier, Kim, Trisha, and Heather. Thank you guys all for going on to patreon.com/Mistress Carrie and signing up for the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass. You get all kinds of bonus content. So if you're following me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff, the people with the Backstage Pass knew about my engagement a few days ago, and I asked them a lot of questions, ask for their opinion on things. They get into discussions. I put up extra photos. And also when we get ready to launch mistresscarrie.com with the official online store, that there's also going to be discount codes for people with the Backstage Pass to be able to buy merch at a discount as well. So if you haven't gotten your Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, it's pretty easy to do. Just go to patreon.com/Mistress Carrie and you can figure it out and get your Backstage Pass. And then speaking of all of the social outlets, here they all are. If you're looking for me, I'm pretty much everywhere. Twitter at Mistress Carrie, Mistress Carrie WAF on Facebook and Instagram, the YouTube channel, which is where all of the Cocktails in the War Room episodes go. So if you ever talk to somebody at work or a family member that says, oh, I don't have Facebook, so I can't get involved with Cocktails in the War Room, that's not true, because all of these episodes go up since the Mike Shue episode, which was the first weekly episode that we did. They all go up on YouTube. And then Cameo, if you want me to make some of those custom Cameo videos, I can make those for you as well. And then, of course, Patreon for the Backstage Pass, and TikTok I have not committed yet. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there you go. So happy early birthday, Mark, says Brianna. We can keep a secret, says Travis. Yes, you can. I appreciate that. Zippered hoodies, says Karen. Yes, they will be in the online store. We're working on it now. We're actually trying to figure out the perfect purple flames to go up the sleeves of the hoodies. So we're working on that right now. It was pretty tough, says Donna. It definitely was, says Danielle. And to think you were worried after losing your job, and look at you now, says Kim. Kim, you don't really know. You know, you take off the seatbelt and you are afraid of the crash. I mean, it just is. It is what it is. And you guys have been amazingly supportive, and we have spent so much time together, and we've just done so much together. And so, yeah, you know, it's been great. And obviously with the news about the engagement this week too, this week didn't suck. I know that we've had many a discussion here in the War Room about having hard weeks, and especially when the news gets dark, when it gets overwhelming, when we start talking about a possible second lockdown, as we get closer to a highly contested presidential election, as things get more polarizing, and as the days get shorter and daylight becomes less and less, and you start getting affected by seasonal disorder and, you know, all of those kinds of things, it's not going to be easy to go back into the winter with as stressful as life can be, and how stressful it is right now. And so having this place for all of us to come, I mean, the War Room has really kind of spearheaded everything else that I have going on. And it's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things coming in the next couple of months. And no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving. I'm staying right here with you guys. Do you really think I could move down south or out west? They don't understand me. They don't get me like you guys do. So no, I'm not going anywhere. Kicking ass and taking names, says Ash. I love seeing women taking control of their own destiny. Will the War Room get invited to the big day? I am going to work on that as best that I can. And also the people with the backstage pass, I might, I just want to say, bear with me to all of the guys with the backstage pass, because there might be some questions that I might need help, especially from the women with the backstage passes, about dresses and all of that kind of stuff. But it's not going to be like that all the time, guys. So don't worry. The backstage pass is not just going to end up being a beauty consultation thing. But yes, I want you guys involved with all of it, because you've been there from the beginning. And there's just some privacy things that I need to take into account because of my soon-to-be better half's, the nature of his employment. So I'll just leave it at that. So happy for you and your Marine. Glad that you love your masks. Thank you so much, Carol. They're amazing. Carol, will you do me a favor? Because a few people have asked where you got them. So would you mind putting the link up so that people can find out what other masks this place has? Because the Muppet masks are amazing. Will says, get married at the big gig next year. Will, I wish that I could. It's not going to be possible, and I'll explain why in a future episode, and I'll fill you in on everything that's going on. But Ash says, I started my new job yesterday, so this week has been so great. New chapter has started. Keep it up. Things are getting better. And that's the attitude that we all have to keep, is that things get really hard and we get pushed down, and then we have to get back up and we have to try something new. And we also have to trust that a scary new adventure can actually work out. And I want to see the ring, says Kim. Kim, I showed it to you guys. Hold on. Well, Mike's not there anymore, but that's what the ring looks like. That picture that's down at the bottom. It's a better picture than trying to show you guys what it's like on the camera, but it's got skulls on the side and it's a black diamond in the middle. My mom was like, what stone is that? I was like, it's a diamond. She goes, they make diamonds black? I'm like, well, nature does, but yeah, they do. So there you go. One more time, I want to thank Latini Creative Solutions at latinicreative.com for sponsoring not only the War Room tonight, but also this week's podcast episode that goes live at midnight. And also thanks to Jumptown Skydiving out in Orange. You can find them at jumptown.com for sponsoring this week's War Room and podcast episode as well. So if you guys are interested in launching a new business and you need to redesign your social media stuff or the logos on all of your uniforms for work, or maybe you want to work on a new design because your company trucks are getting relettered or anything like that, you can reach out to Latini Creative Solutions. And then obviously, if you are beaming, says Renee, I know, I can't help it. If you were thinking about going skydiving, which I think is a fantastic idea, go to jumptown.com and they make tandem skydiving reservations every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there is a very random, again, something I learned about my uncle in this week's podcast episode. There was a real random similarity with Jumptown that I had with my uncle, which was really strange, that I learned in this week's podcast episode. So definitely check it out. Episode number 11 goes live at midnight tonight. Share it with all of your veteran friends, regardless of what era they served. But definitely if you have Vietnam veterans in your life, please share this episode with them. I think it's really powerful. And I want to give my uncle so much credit for being so open and honest and so candid about his experience, because it's definitely not something that he talks about a lot. So thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight in the War Room. Thank you for the tidal wave of love that I am feeling from you guys. It really means a lot to have so much love and support, and to have so many people so happy for me. That something so amazing and wonderful has come out of a year that has felt like it just has been kicking me in the balls minute by minute all year long. And now all of a sudden, I don't know, I'm happy right now. I hope it lasts for a good long time, because it's like I forgot how it feels to be this happy, and it's really nice, and I don't want it to go away. So I love you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with me every week. I will see you next week, and definitely enjoy the podcast episode. It goes live at midnight. Good night, everybody. Where's the button? Hit the button.